everyone, and welcome back to the MFT YouTube channel. It's Karolyn here, and I'm just tickled to share another interactive card process video with you. It features the new Hop, Flip, and a Jump stamp set. I wanted to try and find an easy mechanism to make those critters bounce up and down on the trampoline, and I'm happy to report that I did. I was inspired by this mechanism that I found on Pinterest. I just altered it a bit to suit my purposes. I started off by ink blending some clouds onto my main image panel using some Summer Splash dye ink and the Mini Cloud Edges stencil. I just moved the stencil around from side to side to create some variation in the clouds. I die cut some Limelight cardstock using the Grassy Hills Die-namics, and I'm using the Grassy Edges stencil and some Limelight dye ink to add some additional dimension without adding bulk. And now I'm adhering the two pieces together with some tape runner adhesive. I'll center my panel using my Smart Grid pad, and then I'll position the grass on top of the image panel and use a circle die from the Circle STAX Set 1 Dynamics to cut a notch out of the grass die cut. This will leave an opening at the bottom of the image panel that will provide easy access to turn the wheel for our mechanism. I'll use the grass die cut opening to help position the die back onto the image panel, and I'll die cut the same notch off camera. I use the second to the smallest of the stitched mini Scallop Circle STAX Dynamics to die cut two scallop circles, one from smooth white cardstock and one from a lightweight printer paper. I'm folding the lightweight circle in half and then in half again to find the center of my circle. And then I'll position the folded circle on top of the cardstock circle, and I'll use my piercing tool to punch a hole in the center. If you don't have a piercing tool, you can use a 1/16 inch long reach hole punch to punch the hole. I'm marking the quarter marks on the cardstock circle with a pencil. I'll use these marks later on to stamp a directional prompt. I thought it might be helpful to have some acetate washers to create some distance between our wheel mechanism and the image panel. So I'm using a 1/8 inch long reach hole punch to punch 3 holes into some acetate, and then I'll use a 1/2 inch circle punch to punch around the smaller holes. I made 3 washers, but I only ended up using 2 of them on my mechanism. Next, I've positioned the scallop wheel at the bottom of the image panel so that the scallops extend into the notch area. Then I'll use my paper piercer to punch the hole from the center of the circle onto the image panel. I'm using my T-ruler to measure 3/8 of an inch to the right of the center hole, and I'll mark that with my pencil and use my paper piercer to punch that second hole. I've trimmed a 1/4 inch by 3 inch piece of acetate, and I'm positioning one of the ends of the acetate strip on top of the second hole, and then I'll use my 1/16 inch long reach hole punch to punch the hole through the acetate. I'll position one of the acetate washers that I created earlier behind the second hole, making sure to align the whole of the acetate strip on the front of the wheel, and then I'll place a mini brad through all 3 holes from the back to the front, and I'll fold down the prongs of the brad to secure it. We'll attach our bouncing giraffe to this acetate strip, and you'll see how later on in the assembly of our card. Now I'm securing the wheel to the image panel with another mini brad, again adding an acetate washer to the back, but this time pushing the brad from the front to the back through all 3 holes and bending the prongs of the brad down to secure it. But you can see when I test the mechanism that the acetate strip gets caught up on the top of the center brad. So I trimmed a 1/4 inch strip of printer paper, and I'll adhere that over the top of the brad head so that the acetate strip can slide right over the top of it when I rotate the wheel. I'm just using some liquid adhesive on both ends of the paper strip, and I give them a good rub to make sure they're good and stuck. I also use my thumb to make sure that that brad head is as flat as possible. Next, I'll use another portion of that paper strip to create a collar or sleeve around the acetate strip that I'll fold and then fold again so that it fits loosely around the acetate strip. I'll use some liquid adhesive to secure the ends together, and then again to adhere the collar to the image panel. This is my favorite method of stabilizing portions of an interactive mechanism because it's super easy to customize the size to suit the mechanism. As I slide the collar onto the acetate strip, notice that I've turned the wheel so that the bottom of the acetate strip is located below the center brad. This is the lowest position of our giraffe. I'll secure the collar to the image panel just above the top of the scalloped wheel. And just to make sure that nothing gets caught up when I test drive my mechanism, I decided to add a paper strip to the top of the second brad, similar to what I did on the front of the wheel mechanism. I just remove the wheel from the image panel and I'll secure the paper strip with liquid adhesive just like I did before. Now I can slide the acetate strip back through the paper collar and then I'll reattach the wheel to the image panel, making sure to place that acetate washer on the back. After a few times creating these interactive mechanisms, I've learned to be more proactive in preventing pitfalls along the way. Now that our mechanism is working like a charm, we can start assembling the rest of our card. I've stamped, die cut, and colored the other components of my card so that I could focus on the assembly of the interactive mechanism. I die cut some clouds from smooth white cardstock using the Puffy Clouds Die-namics, and I'm adhering them to the image panel using tape runner adhesive and foam squares. I added foam squares to the back of the assembled grass die cut, making sure not to interfere with the wheel mechanism, and I'll adhere the grass to the image panel. Then I'll adhere the trampoline to the grass using a thin foam square. I stamped the sunshine image from the Rain or Shine stamp set onto some lemon drop cardstock using Sweet Tooth pigment ink, and I heat embossed it with white embossing powder. I'll adhere that behind one of the clouds with a thin foam square. I'll position the giraffe onto the trampoline so that his behind is sitting down. Remember we turned our wheel so that the acetate strip is at its lowest point. Now I can adhere the giraffe's head to the acetate strip using a double layer of foam squares, trimming them to fit the acetate strip. Once my giraffe is in position, I can use my detail scissors to cut off the excess acetate strip. And now I can do a little test drive of my mechanism to make sure the movement of the giraffe is realistic. And I feel like I've achieved what I set out to do. It makes my heart skip a beat when I get one of these mechanisms to work like I envisioned them to. I stamped a sentiment from the Hop, Flip, and a Jump stamp set onto some poppy cardstock using Sweet Tooth pigment ink, and I heat embossed it with white embossing powder. Then I die cut it using the stitch sentiment strips, and I'm adhering it to the left side of the image panel using foam squares. I'm adhering a third cloud die cut just below the sentiment strip using tape runner adhesive. And before I go any further in the assembly of my card, I want to stamp a directional prompt onto the wheel so that the recipient of my card knows what to do when he or she receives it. So I've inked up the right arrow from the interactive label stamp set, and I'm stamping it strategically around the mechanism wheel. And when I say strategically, I mean a little willy-nilly. I forgot about the quarter pencil markings that I made before. Oh well, so much for planning ahead. As long as you stamp the directional prompt multiple times so that when you turn the wheel, the recipient knows to keep turning it to complete the movement, that's good enough. But if you're a precision crafter, use those pencil marks to position your directional stamps. I've added foam squares to the back of the assembled image panel, and I'm adhering it to a 4 1/4 inch by 11 inch snow cone card base that I've scored at 5 1/2 inches and folded in half to make a vertical top folding card base. And once my image panel is adhered, you can see that my mechanism is working like a top, and I couldn't be happier. Here's another quick look at my finished card. Thanks so much for watching my video today. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll give this interactive mechanism a try for yourself. All the products that I used are listed in the description box below, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment and I'll do my best to answer them. Until next time, have a great day.